What is up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college football. And today we are breaking down Oregon State ahead of the 2025 season. If you like this content, please subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Any of those things help us a ton. So thank you if you've done that. We are a very new channel trying to grow. For today, we are going to be talking Oregon State, briefly looking at last year, then talking about the changes they've made, additions, subtractions, coaches, everything like that before we get into the roster and the two deep depth chart. So let's dive right into Oregon State. Here are the efficiency metrics from last year. This team actually had a decent season overall, and their efficiency metrics show that. They're still a team with a lot of change, and they're still a team that missed a bowl, finishing 5-7, but it was the first year of a brand new coaching staff with Trent Bray coming in. So all things considered, this was positive. They also sort of had the quarterback roulette wheel spinning throughout the year. Offensive line was a strength. They had a very good run game with Hankerson. They had a top 40 offensive line in both pass blocking and run blocking. And I was honestly surprised what they were able to get out of the quarterbacks and the wide receivers, considering their number one was a walk-on. The real problems came on defense. They were 130th overall, and they were outside the top 100 in every single major category. Special teams were fine for this team at 26th, but you can kind of see how they finished 5-7 with this imbalanced efficiency, primarily skewed towards offense, defense being a bit of a problem. But we mentioned it. It was the first year of a new regime with Trent Bray. A lot of continuity still. I mean, he was on the staff before. He was just the defensive coordinator. But this team beat Idaho State, San Diego State, Purdue, Colorado State, and Washington State. So it wasn't exactly a group of, teams that were even in bowls. I mean, you have one bowl team here in Washington State. I don't recall if Colorado State made a bowl off the top of my head, so excuse me if they actually did make one. But what I'm trying to say is it wasn't a great group of wins. They did have single-digit losses to Nevada and UNLV. UNLV was by 8 points, but then they got blown out against Oregon, Cal, San Jose State, Air Force, and Boise State. Those were all double-digit losses. As far as the offensive staff, Ryan Gunderson is back. He previously coached quarterbacks for UCLA. It was a very run-heavy offense. I think just given the players they brought in, they may look to pass more. That's primarily a Malik Murphy stat. Defensively, Keith Hayward is back. He needs to work on a lot. Previously, he was with the Raiders in 2023, and before that, he coordinated UNLV's defense. Anytime you have a defense around 130 overall, I mean, you're just going to need work flat out overall. But let's take a look at the talent acquisition for Oregon State. Normally down here, we have the conference ranking with the current edition of the Pac-12 being 2 teams. I just left that out. Obviously, that'll change in future years when all the Mountain West teams join and whatever. But anyway, overall, their recruiting is pretty bad as far as the Power 4 or 5, however you want to classify it, conference team goes. It did take a step back last year. That was the coaching change year. If they can climb back towards the top 50 like we saw in 2023, that would be a huge positive for this team. They're just never going to be towards the top of whatever conference they end up in recruiting. It's a hard place to recruit to. They do retain well. You can see they're above 65% in each of the last 3 seasons. That's with a coaching change. Again, he was the DC, so some familiarity. In the transfer portal, they're a little better. 59, 53, and 57 were the last 3 years where they ranked out. So overall, this team is in a pretty good spot considering it's Oregon State. This is a job that is pretty tricky for coaches to come in and take and succeed at. So let's take a look at the overall depth chart for this team. We have our data usage tool. This is available in Discord if you would like it. And we have our transfers in yellow, what year they are in school to the right, how many snaps they played the last 2 years, what recruit they were in terms of a star ranking, and then an overall value score. That is just trying to evaluate how good a player is expected to be this year. It looks first at your recruiting, then it looks at playing time. So the more you've played, the less it looks at recruiting, the more it looks at what you've done on the field. Think of a score of 50 being purely average. So we have Malik Murphy coming in, taking over the quarterback position. He's the Duke transfer, formerly of Texas, a former 4-star, completed 59% of his passes, 2,363 yards. That was 6.8 yards per attempt. It was a dink and dunk underneath offense at Duke. He did have 21 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 26 big-time throws, 13 turnover-worthy plays. Duke's offense really tried to mitigate negative plays, win close games, and they were good at it. But it was an offense that got the ball out of his hands fast, which kind of makes sense. Despite being 6'5", 235, he's not mobile. Negative 63 yards. That was negative 4.5 yards per carry. And he only took 12 sacks the whole year. It's 1 sack per game. His pressure to sack ratio was 14%, which is above average slightly. But his time to throw was 2.3 seconds, which is among the highest in the entire country. So they knew his weaknesses and perhaps some offensive line weaknesses. That Duke offense was predicated on getting the ball out fast. He overall finished as the 63rd most efficient QB in college football. But just having him on the roster makes me think Oregon State is going to increase that pass rate. Last year, they were down all the way at 46%, which was 77th in the country. You don't bring in a pocket passer like this to run the ball. I mean, they will run the ball with Hankerson, but Malik Murphy's not a threat whatsoever to contribute. Behind him, they do have another former four-star from Missouri in Gabari Johnson. He just hasn't really played much in his career, and when we've seen him, it hasn't looked good. Seems to be one of the rare errors from the recruiting rankings. We'll see on him. At least he's a somewhat talented backup. He is mobile, more mobile than Malik Murphy, so maybe that's how you see him play a role in this offense. We mentioned briefly Anthony Hankerson is back. He was their stud RB last year. Former Colorado transfer, he's 5'8", 200 pounds, 1,082 yards. That was 4.7 yards per carry. He caught 27 passes. Pretty efficient too, over 3 yards per carry after contact, forced 57 missed tackles. He's locked into your starting role and probably plays the same feature back role as last year. From there, I think there's 2 main candidates for change of pace work. The first one's Marquise Crosby from Louisiana Tech. He transfers in, 5'9", 201 pounds. He's been pretty hurt the last 2 seasons. He actually rushed for 918 yards in 2022. You got to go back a ways. That was 5 yards per carry with 9 receptions. But yeah, he's been hurt ever since. He was efficient down there at Louisiana Tech. Your concerns are the injuries and that low level of competition. The other main candidate is sophomore Salahaddin Allah, who is 5'11", 215. But Allah did rush for 4.7 yards per carry, 258 yards, caught a couple passes as well. These players are mainly going to play a change of pace role. I think it would probably be Allah who handles most of the work if you saw a Hankerson injury. But the running back room should be a strength of this team. At wide receiver, they do return Trent Walker. Man, the former walk-on really played well last year. 6'2", 200 pounds, 81 catches for 901 yards, played on the perimeter, 2.36 yards per route, above average. Generally, with walk-ons, you got to show me before I put any sort of trust in you, and Walker did just that. He outperformed former four-star and Michigan transfer Darius Clemens. Now, he was injured last year. He missed basically the first month. So I'm not sure how much that lagging injury affected him down the stretch. He finished with 25 catches, 292 yards. He's 6'3", 213, played on the perimeter with 1.64 yards per route. As far as like a 1-2 punch goes at wide receiver, these are 2 pretty good options for Oregon State. You're generally not seeing a four-star in Clemens and then the development of a walk-on like Walker performed this well, but they absolutely have. And now you get the upgraded quarterback. They also have Taz Reddick's back. He had nearly 400 snaps as a redshirt freshman, 5'11", 192 pounds. He had 17 catches, played out wide 94% of the time, 1.16 yards per route. So as you can see, you do have 3 perimeter receivers. One of them probably moves into the slot. If it were me deciding, I would probably move Walker in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Reddick's as well. I think Clemens firmly stays in the boundary. They don't have much depth. The only players that have seen some work are Jimmy Velson, David Wells, and Zachary Card. Velson is 6'2", 202. He was hurt last year, but caught 11 balls in 2023. Wells is 6'1", 176 pounds. He had 6 catches last year. And then Card only played 63 snaps. The rest of the depth chart is first and second year players. I don't think you really see many of them. It would be a surprise if one of these freshmen or redshirt freshmen actually jumps up the depth chart. But overall, expecting the passing attack to be a little better with the addition of Malik Murphy, Clemens being healthier, and Walker already showing what he can do. As far as tight ends go, They lose Jermaine Terry, but they do have a former zero-star wide receiver who's played a bit in Bryce Caulfield. 352 snaps. He's 6'4", 237, had 6 catches. The real problem was he had 2 drops, and he only had 15 targets. It's a small sample, but, I mean, you need to improve those metrics. He was an average blocker, which is basically why he's on the field. But this Oregon State team added some great transfers. Riley Williams from Miami, Jackson Bowers from BYU, both are former 4-stars. Williams, he's 6'5", 275. He already played 500 snaps with Miami. Decent blocker, 15 catches. He's going to play. If not, because he's, I mean, like you could basically use him as a 6th offensive lineman. He's athletic enough to catch passes. This is a great addition. Bowers, a little less experience, only 10 snaps. He's a redshirt sophomore, 4-star. But, I mean, you're trying to beat out a 0-star former wide receiver converted to tight end in Caulfield. The tight end position is better. Offensive line, they lose 4 starters, their 4 best starters. This was an awesome unit. Top 40 in both pass blocking and run blocking. Their only returning starter is Van Wells. He was their weakest link. Now, take that with a grain of salt. He was still well above average. The Colorado transfer has nearly 1,800 snaps to his name. Excellent pass blocker, only 10 pressures allowed, no sacks. Not quite as good in the run game, but he's going to hold down the middle of this offensive line. He is awesome. At tackle, they don't have much coming back. Jacob Strand has 107 snaps. He's played both tackle positions. He actually has played really well on a small sample. I think he probably gets your first crack at the left tackle job, just pretty inexperienced. They do have some transfers. Keon Cox from UCF, Will Larkins from Georgia State. Cox is a redshirt sophomore. He has 44 snaps through his first 2 years. He's played well when he's been out there, just hasn't been out there a lot. Larkins began his career with Indiana before going to Georgia State, also very inexperienced. The other options are Tyler Morano and Jacob Anderson, neither of whom has experience. So you're looking at both of your tackle positions coming in pretty inexperienced, with Strand being the most developed, and he has 107 snaps. We'll see on this. It's probably going to take a step back. Inside, they do return Tyler Volton after 88 snaps. He began the year as a starter. He actually started the first 2 games, but then he tore his ACL and his MCL. He's never allowed a QB pressure, and he's been good in the run game, but he's a former walk-on. He's coming off a serious injury. What is he going to give you? Otherwise, your other incumbents are Dylan Sikorsky and Nathan Elu. Sikorsky played 50 snaps last year, but some of that was on the defensive line. He's played on the defensive line this spring. That was a unit that was ravaged last year by injury, so I don't even know if he's going to play offense. I just mentioned him because that's where he was recruited. Elu played 27 snaps. He's a redshirt junior, not really a quality option. And it shouldn't be a surprise that because you have such a weak interior unit, you go out and you add Josiah Timoteo from Nevada and JT Hand from Arizona. Timoteo played 772 snaps for Nevada over the last 2 years, but he allowed 42 pressures and 10 sacks. This was a below-average player in the Mountain West. As far as Hand goes, he was out all of last year, but he did play 173 snaps with Arizona through his first 3 years. Mainly an average player. I don't see any way around this offensive line being worse. When you return just 1 starter and your transfers are low level, your incumbents are underdeveloped, it's just going to take time. That might affect Hankerson as well. He was playing behind an elite run game. We'll see how this affects the offense. But when you have a pocket statue in Malik Murphy, a running back who ran behind an elite unit, you have to at least raise the question. Defensive line, off the edge, they returned Nico Taylor. He played 583 snaps. He was great in run defense. He had 46 tackles, 8 tackles for loss. Above average pass rusher with 26 pressures. He's a good place to start. Their second pass rusher is Zakiah Saez, who had 361 snaps. He's only 242 pounds, Because of that size, he did struggle a bit in run defense, but he was pretty good as a pass rusher. The other player to mention is Takari Hickel, out most of last year with injury, but he did have 8 pressures in 2023, so had a bit of a spark to his game that season. To help out, they added Walker Harris from Southern Utah, Kai Wallen from Nebraska. Harris, coming in from the FCS, his production was in the 69th percentile. Did have 39 pressures, but only 3 sacks. Wallen from Nebraska is a former 3-star. He has 129 snaps of below average play to this point. He is 252 with 7 pressures. I mean, you're going down in competition. You'd think he would be okay. The only other players to mention, Shamar Michael, Oluwase, Omotosho, Andy Alfieri, all of them have been on the field sparingly and could play a role because this unit is fairly unsettled. The only player I feel relatively good about is Nico Taylor. Saez feel decently about him being the number 2, but no idea who rounds out the 2 deep. Defensive tackle, they do return 3 contributors with over 300 snaps. That's Tavita Palme, Thomas Collins, and Jacob Schuster. Of that group, Collins was the best. He was only slightly below average, which kind of tells you how the group as a whole was. He's 285, did his best work as a pass rusher, struggled in run defense. He is young. That was as a redshirt freshman. He's now a redshirt sophomore, so Collins has some upside. Palme was the second best. He's an Oregon transfer, but he did not play well in the run game, and he's 330 pounds. That's a concern. Schuster was awful. He was a redshirt freshman, so there is potential for growth with another year of development, but he had 4 pressures, awful in the run game. They were forced to play a lot of youth on the defensive line. We mentioned they were so hurt that offensive lineman Nick Sikorsky was playing. My diagnosis is that these redshirt freshmen that played last year probably just weren't ready. With another year of development, you would expect growth. But I mean, JoJo Johnson, 15 snaps. Nick Norris, he didn't see the field from Northern Colorado when he transferred in with some of these other guys on the team. The only transfer they bring in this year is Tajay Mullock. He's from Western Carolina. He had 39th percentile FCS production. I mean, unless these redshirt freshmen grow, this is a putrid interior defensive line. Edge group's a little better, but I mean, they might just get the run game shoved down their throat with this unit. We'll see. Linebacker, they lost Isaiah Chisholm and Melvin Jordan. Both were solid. That leaves Dexter Foster as the top linebacker with 349 snaps. He made 4 starts. He wasn't the greatest in run defense, and he did allow 7 receptions on 8 targets. So this is a unit that probably needs a little work with him leading it. And that's because Micaiah Tongue is back, allegedly. He's the former 4-star from Georgia. He was actually initially recruited to play wide receiver. But Tong has only played 23 snaps. What happened was in 2023, he tore his ACL, his MCL, his patella tendon, and his meniscus on the same play. As you can imagine, he has not played since. That's basically an entire knee reconstruction for Micaiah Tong. He has the recruiting pedigree. He comes from the elite school, but what is he going to give you? He hasn't played basically in 2 years off that crazy injury. I flat out don't know. From there, you bring in Rajon Davis from USC. He's another former 4-star. He's played 272 snaps through 4 years. His best season was in 23, where he played 210, and he was basically average. I think he could play. The rest of the group is Gyrese Goodman, Aiden Sullivan, Tyree Blake, and Clive Pond. Most of those players are either JUCO transfers or walk-ons. So honestly, I think the unit might tread water. It might be about the same, but that's going to rely on Foster getting a little better, Tong getting up to even close to what we thought he would be, and Davis finally playing up to his recruitment, which I think was more likely now that he's coming down in competition. This is still far from the worst unit on the defense. Defensive back. They lose 3 starters. The only one of consequence was Andre Jordan Jr. At safety, they get back 1 full-time starter in Skylar Thomas. He played 709 snaps. He led the team with 81 tackles. Completion percentage of 55% was good. He had 10 PBUs. Solid starter. The other safety position, I'm not sure. Tyrese Ivey Jr. is an option, 297 snaps last year. He's originally a JUCO guy, so the expectations weren't super high. But he did make 3 starts. He's been a decent run defender, but he struggled in coverage. So I wouldn't guarantee him the spot. Jaheim Patterson and Marion York are other JUCO products who have played a little bit. Patterson started 3 games with average numbers. York only has 5 snaps. They're both from JUCO, so it's not the best unit. Outside of Thomas, they're probably going to be searching for that second safety. At corner, the only player they return as a starter is their slot, Sialasa Vajrawale. He played 466 snaps last year. Real liability in run defense, but his coverage was actually pretty good. 59% completion for 323 yards. He might not start, or maybe they move him to a boundary position or safety. I say that because he actually wasn't the day 1 starter. That was Noble Thomas Jr., who got hurt in week 1. He played 283 snaps back in 23, and he was pretty good. So I think you do have two corners that you can use. I'm not sure if one plays safety or the boundary, but Noble Thomas was supposed to be the starter, got hurt. That put Vajrawale into position, giving them a little more experience than maybe you'd think. On the boundary, they had TJ Crandall from West Virginia and Tyjae Hopper from James Madison. Crandall originally was a Colorado State guy. He subsequently went to West Virginia, where he only played in one game. His inability to play more in that poor secondary is a problem. I know he was banged up for part of last year. We'll see what he gives you here. Hopper's a redshirt freshman. He did not play a snap with James Madison. As far as incumbents go, Exodus Ayers played 304 snaps as a freshman last year, and he was actually good, 59% completion, good run defense numbers. He'll play a role. I'm not sure if it's as a starter or the two deep backup. We shall see. Otherwise, Kobe Singleton, Mason White. Singleton originally was his Southern Utah transfer. Then he played at Liberty, where he started for 2 years, was pretty average. Last year, he only got on the field for 112 snaps. And White, originally with TCU, he played 179 snaps last year. One start against Air Force, not the best player. And that's kind of the story with the secondary. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of JUCO guys, a lot of low-level transfers. It's definitely more experienced than the defensive line, and I think it's slightly better than that unit. But is it even average? That's really the main question here. Special teams, kicking. They're breaking in a new kicker, projects to be Caleb Ojeda. We saw him in the spring game. He missed a 49-yarder, and then he followed that up with a 50-plus yard field goal. So I don't know. He apparently has some range. We'll see what it looks like when we get to actual games. But that is the depth chart. I think this unit is a little weaker than last year, predicated on those offensive line departures. But overall, it's a pretty decent unit. Let's go to the schedule and talk about what to expect from this team this season. As we know, everything comes down to who you play. So it's a makeshift schedule. The Pac-12 has two teams right now. And for the first time, and I don't know how long, they're playing Washington State twice just to fill out the schedule. So you've got two games against Washington State. They're better than Washington State, not by a ton. So we will see what happens with those two games. Otherwise, I like to just look at Power 5 teams versus G5 teams for these Pac-12 teams. And Oregon State plays Cal, Texas Tech, Oregon, Houston, and Wake Forest from the Power 4. You're probably an underdog in every one of those games. The two most winnable are Houston and Cal specifically being the most winnable. It's still a dicey schedule of P4 teams. In the G5, they have to go to Appalachian State and Tulsa. Their home games are against Fresno State and Sam Houston. They also play an FCS team in Lafayette. This puts their win total at 6.5. I think that is fair for this team, and it's about the expectation I have. I think you can go to a bowl as long as you take care of business against Washington State. You're better than them. And then take care of business against your G5. Maybe you get an upset against Cal, and then you get to a bowl. I think you lose the games you're supposed to. I'm not expecting competitive play against Texas Tech, Oregon, Wake Forest, Houston, and that's just what it is. With these teams falling behind and not getting enveloped by another conference, we have seen them struggle, change coaches, recruiting fall. It just is what it is. But let me know what your expectations are for this Oregon State team. Again, I think they're going to make a bowl. And let me know who you want to see later this summer. We'll take G5 teams by request. We'll do all the win total shows. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Good luck, and we will see you later.